Generally not one for tool talk, but I thought I'd share this just as a safety thing. So to do this large amount of mortising and to do it consistently, I've been using a template, as you see. And part of that is using a brass bushing, which sits inside the router base, if you're not familiar with them. And then what happens is you've got a spiral plunge solid carbide bit, and you can then plunge it in, lock it in place, and then with the template, follow it around and make repeatable cuts over and over again. Same depth, same dimensions, same alignment, a lot faster. Now, usually, in fact, every time I can, I'll buy either US, Japanese, or German-made goods. No particular order, necessarily. I often buy Japanese because I'm in Japan. They're made to exacting standards, especially the ones that are still made in Japan. And if there's a problem, they're local. A lot of my other stuff, especially carbide bits and things, I wind up ordering from the States, Whiteside, and I get no, obviously, sponsorship or anything. Whiteside is still made in the US. They're built like a brick shit house. They're really well done. They last. And so I get my downcut bits from them. I also have a 1/8 inch inlay kit, which is the brass bushing, an additional collar, and the bit. I didn't have quarter. And 1/8 only gives you a 1/2 inch depth. 1/4 inch bit gives you a full inch depth. Yes, I usually measure in metric, but these are imperial. So I needed to get a set of bushings. And I went online and I looked around, and it seems that pretty much they're all made in China or Taiwan, as the case may be. And there's really no way to know about the quality you're getting except other people's reviews. So I went with a company that seemed to have the highest number of decent reviews. This one is called O School, or O School. Yeah, the K maybe should have been a giveaway, but there really weren't any other options. You know, how do you choose between Wenfeng and O School and Happy Bit, or, you know, Lord knows what names they have, aside from other people's reviews? So I went ahead and picked these up. I was using the 1/4 inch guide, and about 20 mortises in, I hope you can see this, I'm not sure if it's focused or not, the bushing brass failed, shattered. When you use these, it's really important that they are concentric, that all the centers of the circles line up. And to do that, you use a special centering piece, which I do every single time. And I know that that works because with the Whiteside kits, I've never had any issue. In fact, that Whiteside inlay kit I have is probably 8 years old. I've swapped out the bits, but the bushing and the collar are the same ones that I bought ages ago, and they work fine. These appeared to be aligned. There was no sign of any wear, but there must have been contact in some way, perhaps under stress. There was a minor amount of flex. Either way, it failed sending brass shrapnel out at high speed. These spin at 16 to 20 something thousand RPM, really high. There have been occasional incidents of people being injured when a bit fails, for example, penetrating a bit like a bullet does. Had the brass not been trapped in the wood because it happened while it was in a cut, it could have gone anywhere, into my face, into my abdomen, whatever. So it was alarming. I could feel it. I was cutting and it gave that little, so I shut it down immediately, looked, saw what happened. What I wound up doing to finish the rest of the work was going to a slightly larger collet or bushing, finishing the cuts, and then just having to trim out the little lip, the sort of the cheek that was left with the chisel. It took me a little bit more time, but I was able to finish it. I've put in an order for the Whiteside 1/4 inch inlay set. It's a bit more than I need because I really only need the bushing, but it's the only way I can get. I can't get just the bushing apparently. And I looked to see, I checked with AI agents, you know, are there any sets, full sets, made in brass, or any other material for that matter, made in the US, Germany, or Japan? It doesn't appear to be. So, caveat emptor, know what you're getting, know that there's a potential for failure, and therefore take what protection you can. I don't know if I should consider getting a Kevlar apron for the shop. Is there such a thing? Perhaps metal shops, machinists, aprons would be able to protect me a little bit, but it's giving me pause, wondering, will another set fail or not? The next one's going to be white side, and I'm mostly done with the bottom plate, the base plate, and the top plate, but I still have some tenon to do. I don't know, I figure I've got maybe another 10 or 15 mortises to cut, and I'm sure that the white side will do that. Anyway, a moment's reflection at the end of a week. This happened today, and it was something that definitely I thought I should share with you. I'm going to try to return these to Amazon because clearly the product failed, but at the same time it's now used, and I don't know if they will or won't. It was well within, I only bought it like a week ago, but I'm sure they may say something like, well, it was used and therefore it could have been user error. C'est la vie. Okay, this is going to be Middle-Aged Man Complaining Part 2. So this is the kit that failed. You see the outer diameter is 5/16, inner diameter is 1 1/4. Now if we measure this outer diameter, we'll see that we have 0.318. 0.318. Here is the new one, the replacement that just came today, different brand. Again, 1/4 and 5/16, supposedly the same. And we have basically 0.41, not 0.40, 0.40. So these are supposed to have the same outer diameter, and they don't. How about the inner diameter? Well, I think you can see it from your eye already, but if I can get these calipers in here. Okay. Here we have 0.34. 0.34 for this inner diameter. And if we look at the old one, now granted, it's been damaged, there might be a bit of deflection, but still. Okay. We have a measurement of 0.281. Now you might not think that this matters. We're talking quite literally fractions of an inch. And the thing is, when you're doing woodworking, particularly when you're doing joinery, yes, wood grows and shrinks throughout the season, but there are nominal sizes or measurements that you use. And the fact that two different companies would make ostensibly the same product, brass bushing for Porter cable style router bases, and they give the same measurements, and yet they are so radically not the same, or so clearly not. It kind of boggles the mind. So now I'm not quite sure. I mean, at least with the newer kit, it's clearly non-interference anyway, so the odds of the 1/4-inch bit coming into contact with the brass wall, pretty much zero. I suppose if I really want to get a well-made set, I'm going to have to take one of these kits to a local machine shop and say, hey, here's a really disappointing kit. Can you custom make a set for me in brass with proper clearances, and see if they would do that. It'll be a lot more expensive because it's a one-off custom-made piece instead of something that is mass-produced. But there really is no excuse for this lack of precision. And without precision, you're not really going to be able to trust the accuracy, at least when you're moving between kits. And if you can't trust build quality, then you're going to have to move between kits. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. Anyway, that would be Middle-Aged Man Moaning Part 2 concluded. And now I need to wipe some sweat and sawdust off and get back into it.